So what you're finding is that people are emphasizing and redefining quality of life. And as they're doing this, they're watching institutions fall. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, is this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because your baby teeth have to come out before the big ones can come in. And you don't want to build a new infrastructure. It really doesn't work if you build it on a crumbling foundation. We have to totally revitalize and rethink our economic strategies and our financial investments on this planet. And we have to redefine wealth. Money is no more than a tool that we can use to accomplish things while we're here. It's really about looking at what's really important and putting our energies into those areas and refocusing. You know, and as these things are happening, we're also learning to deal with extraterrestrials, since it's been ripped out of the fabric of our society, and we're not allowed to know that they even exist. Then good golly, how could we even figure out how to deal with them and what's appropriate protocol? What works and what doesn't? What are appropriate boundaries for us and for them? All that has been taken away from us because, geez, they don't exist, do they? I'm Marcia Schafer, and I've had a somewhat unusual life. Well, for some people, it's a little bit hard to believe that I've had experiences with life from beyond this planet since I was born, since I was in the crib. And what it's done is it's given me a very unique perspective, not as much into the other beings that are out there, but more into the human condition and who we are. It gives us a perspective of looking at life differently and a great appreciation of the planet. Now, many people still have difficulty trying to grasp the fact of whether or not this really exists, and people like me who have these types of experiences are legitimate, are delusional, or just off on some odd track. But for those of us who've had them, there's no longer any question as to whether it's real or not. We know that it is. When you're having genuine face-to-face contact, and it's different from if you're having what people think is a channeled experience or you're using drugs or a hallucinatory agent, when you're having genuine face-to-face contact, oftentimes what happens is that you almost become split in that your ego, your psyche, your everyday ordinary consciousness kind of goes, whoa, what's going on here? But there's another piece of you that kind of just goes with the flow and is embracing it in a little way for many people. I mean, you often hear the stories of, horror stories of people having things done against their will. You know, when you ask, you know, how do you know if it's real? Trust me, you know that it's real. It's afterwards when you have had the completion of the interactions with them that you can sometimes go, did that really just happen? But in the moment, it's really different. There's often sensory things that happen. You are seeing things differently, you're hearing things differently, you're all of a sudden experiencing someone there in front of you who wasn't there before. I believe that one of the things that happens as they appear is that what we know as, or can call dimensions, tend to almost warp. It's like the time-space field almost warps. You feel a difference as it's happening, and you sense them as they're starting to come through. And many people will often report a loud noise inside their head, paralytic types of sensations. Different things will take place. I think it's as they're coming through the dimensional field, you often feel these different experiences. Then when they're there, for me at least, there's a type of communication that takes place where you're then engaged with them. It's not a verbal communication, it's more of what I call a holographic communication, where it's like a more advanced form of telepathy, because you're getting information very fast and you're seeing images and you have entire blocks of information being passed to you. So when you say, you know, how does somebody know that it's real? Trust me, you know that it's real, but there's a part of you that's going, whoa, is this really happening? But it's undeniable, and that's why face-to-face genuine contact is different than somebody who feels they're in communion and is having a channeled experience or getting messages from them. for me, it's not the classical rape abduction type of scenario that you hear about for a lot of people. Many times the information is for me personally. Many times the information is for me to be able to help me understand what's happening on a global situation, to be able to understand people better, humanity better. It may be something about time-related, about events that are taking place, or it may be general counsel in terms of how to be a wiser, better being. The biggest message that they have made sure that I understood is that the future is based on probabilities, that the future is not set in stone. Now, granted, there are situations that are really deeply embedded that are likely to happen, whether it's for you on a personal level or for us as a collective on a greater level. And it's a lot harder to deflect those from taking place. But it can be done. And there is no permanence to the future. And so that's why we have so much infinite potential and so much possibility individually and collectively, because the future is mutable and it can be changed. So their emphasis with me has been understanding that I need to be the most optimum I can be, and I need to be very, very aware of what I'm doing and how I'm acting at all times so that I will bring about the most preferential future that I would like to have. You know, in a way, and it brings some great hope, because there's always hope. It's not as if, you know, there's going to be great cataclysm, or, you know, California's going to fall into the ocean, or Armageddon is going to happen. Even if any of those things were slated to occur, they can be changed based on our individual capacity to think and act and our collective capacity to think and act as we join together and find one another. Well, some of that is a presumption on our part when we talk about the shift that people are making. What they've been doing is they've been observing the race for thousands and thousands of years, and they're hoping that we're going to get to a certain point where we can make an evolutionary change in looking at ourselves and in understanding the world at large. When that happens, then there'll be more of an encouragement for us to leave the planet and join the great outdoors, as we could call it. But, you know, as far as anything specific in terms of a shift, it's more of, you know, we've been looking at the race for so long, and we're hoping to see these changes, and, you know, some of them are there, some of them aren't. But the more of us that engage in this type of conversation, the more of us that turn on the light within ourselves and open up the doorways to the types of communications that extend beyond normal communications that we have, that gives us a greater chance of gaining more knowledge and of understanding and of making that shift that you're all hoping for to see. There's a lot of people who are just not going to have the types of conversations that you and I are having right now. It's just not part of their paradigm. They don't want it to be part of their paradigm. And they're part of this world, and they have as much right to this world as we do too. And so it's that, how are we cohabiting with them, different segments of the population, some that are waking up and becoming more aware to greater things, the great unknown, and others that are choosing not to and are tenaciously holding on to where they stand at this point. And, you know, that's a really interesting conundrum that they're looking at, is how we're working with each other to move forward. Because while it seems like there's a great burgeoning of people who are aware of what is happening on a different scale, it's really still quite insular. It's really still a smaller community. So it's up to us to help that blossom forward, and for people to be able to feel safe, to open up doors of understanding to other worlds. You know, and as these things are happening, we're also learning to deal with extraterrestrials, since it's been ripped out of the fabric of our society, and we're not allowed to know that they even exist. Then good golly, how could we even figure out how to deal with them, and what's appropriate protocol? What works and what doesn't? What are appropriate boundaries for us and for them? All that has been taken away from us because, geez, they don't exist, do they? One of the things that's most fascinating to me is that as a culture and a civilization, we as humans on this planet do not think or act strategically. We just really seize the moment. Where many other, I'll call them civilizations, they really aren't, but off-planet situations, the planets know that they have to prepare for the next tomorrow. They know that they have to watch their resources and manage it carefully. They look at their population issues. They look at their food resources issues. They look at their climatic issues. You know, how long have we been on this planet? A lot longer than our records actually indicate. But all the time, you know, are we ever looking at ways to, you know, are there arid areas where we could bring in some water and make it so that it's crop bearing? We don't do those types of things, really. We don't look at desalination of water and readjusting the balance on the planet. You know, we don't think strategically towards the future and what the tomorrow is going to bring and how to work in conjunction with nature in terms of making it a situation where we're using the earth, but we're using it in a bountiful manner, but a giving back manner. And that's because we just don't act, live, or think strategically on this planet in terms of the tomorrow. It amazes me, you know, we hear a lot of people talking about alternative energies and fuels. Even apart from that, what smart civilization on any planet is going to still be dwelling on a situation where the major mode of transportation is so heavily contributing to pollution? You know, and so we're looking at, well, maybe smarter cars or better fuels. Maybe there's a whole nother way to do travel. You know, like when we went to the horse, did we really ever even think or imagine the car or the plane? Maybe there's whole other ways to do travel, even from a quantum level, that would better serve us, rather than even trying to find clean fuels at this point. But we don't do that. We don't do that at all. And our economy is such that we tend to funnel the direction of science in a way that isn't far advanced enough in some perspectives. You know, how often do I hear, well, are the aliens going to come fix us? Are the extraterrestrials going to take care of us? Are there angels out there and they're going to take care of us? We need to start having responsibilities for who we are, how we live on this planet, and what we're going to do as we go forward. One of the things that's really important now, that we tend to think of demographics in terms of populations and characteristics and income levels and you know, where do you live and general tendencies. But we need to think about demographics now in terms of even spiritual stratification and where people are on their path to self-awareness. And there's different groups on the planet right now that I fully believe in terms of these spiritual demographics that are out there. One group is very self-empowered. They're not held in by the constraints of what people tell them to think. They're not following religious ideology. They're not following political ideology. They're looking within, and they're hearing this inner voice and these inner teachings that are coming and filtering through, perhaps from their other lifetimes that they've had in different civilizations, perhaps from those unseen realities and those unseen influences that perhaps are really out there and can get through and guide us. And so they're formulating that into a synthesis of what life is and what the future can be. But there's other demographic groups out there that are just as important. There are two more in particular. One, there is the group of what I call the people who are really starting to move outside the box in terms of life as they've known it. They're looking to the left and they're looking to the right and they're saying, it doesn't fit anymore, everything that I've been told. And I'm genuinely curious at things that I used to poo-poo and used to not want to really know about. I want to know more about life, but I'm not quite sure where to go, where to look, what's valid, what's not valid, because they find when they start looking for what they think is nothing that's out there, there's a tremendous amount of information, but it's hard to sift through what's right for them. So these are the people who are just starting to break out, and the old way of life doesn't work for them anymore. The old answers don't fit because we have new questions and new circumstances in this 21st century that we're living in now. There is another group that is very fundamentally entrenched in who they are and how they live. The problem with this third group is that anything that violates their tenets of reality becomes the enemy and must be destroyed. It's based under the basic principles of intolerance. And so therefore, I cannot allow in from you or anybody else extraneous thought processes that violate my construct of reality and what I know it to be, because I have a very fundamental perspective. If I allow you in, I have to start questioning what I know as reality. And my belief system has an automatic protection system built in that says, you can't question me. You must accept it as it is, and as you have been taught. And so therefore, you must go forth and you must destroy anything that violates my viability as a belief system. And so this is where we get, whether it's fundamental religion, whether it's Catholicism, Judaism, Islamic beliefs, any of that, people who are entrenched and will not allow you to violate their system. The problem is that they don't want you to even have yours either. So this is a very, very tenuous group on the planet, because anything that you do to question is the demise of their ultimate life as they see it. So that is one group. But the two other groups I talk about are really the most important ones that will lead us to change. Those who are well aware on their self-awareness path and are pursuing higher consciousness ardently. They don't always let you know who they are, because I work with people who are in every aspect of society, high level, proficient, corporate positions, individual positions, highly articulate, research position, all kinds of strata that you can think about. And if you look at them in everyday life, you'd never know. I mean, your jaw would drop. They'll close the door and they'll say, well, let me tell you what my spirit guide said to me. And you're like, so they're out there and they're growing and growing and growing. So something is happening to this group. They're being switched on for some reason. And as I said, that middle group is coming up right behind them. They're saying, I need more tools. This isn't working. These are the people who are really inspired by the motivational types of things. They love Oprah, they love Deepak Chopra, and things that are very easy to digest. They don't go as far out as the metaphysical people who are really advanced on their pathway, and anything's open, fair game, extraterrestrials, spirits, anything that's out there, where the other people think, yeah, I think it could be, and it's really interesting, and I want to learn more about it. But with this middle group, they need to have information that's comfortable and safe. And I think that's very important, and we need to respect that. So it needs to be packaged for them in a way that they are willing to go and explore. I've had many people say to me, well, I'm not going to a UFO conference, but I do want to find some more information, so that's why I'm going to spend some time with you, because this is comfortable. And, and I look like one of them, too. I'm not wearing crystals and a muumuu, and I'm not, playing the Star Trek theme song while I'm howling at the moon. So, it's in a way that there needs to be many different areas of information for different groups of people, so that everybody can find what they want. It's now time for the buffet instead of the sit-down dinner. And this is what we're looking forward as we're going forward into the new aspects of consciousness and as people are growing. The underlying question behind all this is, what is going on? Why are so many people growing and looking at the world differently now? As I pointed out before, a lot of the foundation behind this is that we've had so many advances in science and technology that it does become safe because we have answers. What was once magical and mystical is now explainable. I mean, for gosh sakes, if I were to take the remote control out of any man's hand on the couch and go back in time 150 years ago, I am the magic wizard with a wand. And, these concepts that are just so unfathomable. Imagine if we had a television set and went back into the 1860 and could show certain things. Well, now, it's just an ordinary construct as a part of our lives. So we're able to look at things and have answers that make sense to us. We've gone up a notch in terms of the understanding. So we've demystified mysticism, and a lot of the things that were spectacular now can be made sense of in our ordinary everyday lives, take us all to a new level. But then there's the hidden piece. Is there possibly something going on that we are not aware of that is catapulting mankind into a new evolutionary stride? Is there something that could be punching man up just a degree in terms of his level of consciousness? Because for many people, something extraordinary is happening, and their paranormal skill set is being switched on. Not only are they having experiences that are outside the mainstream, they've lived their whole life and all of a sudden they're having an extraterrestrial experience, or they're able to see a ghost at the foot of their bed. Their sentient capacity is being turned on to a greater degree. So what if there are conditions that are able to impact us, that are out there in the cosmos that we're not aware of, that we haven't yet charted, that are actually able to impact us on a biological basis? That's a potential. When we look at the oceans, we know nothing about them, but all of a sudden we start learning that there's conditions affiliated with them, that we'll have a warm season based on changing weather patterns that are based off of the Gulf Stream, and things that are happening in that region will impact us over here. What if in space there's all of a sudden some new solar condition, or there's some new cosmic type of radiation in this field that is fluid and that we're moving? We tend to think we're static. We tend to think we're living on this one planet because we look outside our homes and we see the fence, and we see our neighborhoods, and we see the communities, but we don't look out and see that we're on a planet that's hurtling through space and moving through this continuum. And it's much like unknown weather patterns. But you know what? When there's rain, we get wet. And so if there's something unknown out there that's going to affect us and have an impact on us as biological beings, and we don't know about it, we may feel the impact and not know the cause. So we have to start looking beyond our own backyards and start looking into the greater reality to see that there might be some unknown causes behind human behavior and human growth. The interesting thing when we talk about evolution is people tend to think we're static. Well, that's something that Darwin talked about. Man evolved till now, but we're still evolving. We're evolving from a conscious awareness standpoint, and we're even evolving from a biological standpoint. We think evolution's done, and now we're the apex of civilization, and we're perfect. We're a work in progress is what we are. We're not finished, and we forget that. So, it's about going beyond our boundaries and remembering that there's an infinite possibility of what can be. And that is what needs to help define us for what is right now. We need to have open minds. Zecharia Sitchin is a name that you often hear, and the background on this man is he's a brilliant man who is a Sumerian scholar, and he was able to read the cuneiform writing that was done by the early Sumerians, which is a rare thing for someone to do. Sumer is unique because today we consider it the basket place of civilization on this planet. And what happened is as they translated the tablets of their writings, the scholars initially found that it was a very advanced civilization way, way back when humanity was just birthing itself into city-states and collectives. And they had lawyers and accountants and tax keepers and all kinds of things that we have today, hospitals and institutions. But they also had something else. And in their tales, they had stories of those who walked among them, those who came down to earth. And what was originally seen as mythic stories that were made up, Zecharia Sitchin took a different perspective, and he said these people were actually here, and they were space travelers, and they greatly influenced the civilization and the birth of the future of mankind through their actions. The interesting thing about Sitchin is where I think he's so profoundly impactful is that he's gotten people to think in a different direction about the history of mankind. One of the things, though, I am concerned about is that in this thought process that he's brought forward is he talks exclusively about the Anunnaki, which was the name given for the visiting race that came and was around at the time of Sumer. People have embraced his philosophy with great popularity, and he's really grown and gotten a lot of the attention that he deserves in the ensuing years since he first came forward. But what my concern is, as much as I respect and admire the man and the work that he's done, is that We are trading one creation myth for another. Because now what a lot of people are doing is they're hijacking his work and they're taking it and embedding it into their own, and they're saying, well, this is what the Anunnaki did. The Anunnaki are still here. The Anunnaki were responsible for the creation of man and who he is today. But we don't know. Even though I've had my own experiences that I share about that and what I've been told, and even though people have done research in different areas, and we've had the Darwinian theory of evolution, and we've had the creation theory of evolution, no matter how profoundly emphatic people are about what they feel took place, is not only do we not know, we are never going to know the true history on this planet. We are going to be able to get certain pieces and start to put it together in a different way, but that part is gone. And so we're never going to know really our true evolution. It's only going to become a pieced together belief system. So what my concern is that so many people are grasping on and replacing their current belief systems with this new one, which is pretty terrific, but it may not be the whole story of what took place. In my own personal experiences from the races that I've worked with, the Anunnaki are not the only ones who've been involved in the evolution of man on this planet. That there were other groups that were here over time and at the same time that had an influence. But we don't have any pieces of that coming forward yet. So while it's been extremely instrumental, what Zecharia Sitchin has done, profoundly impactful in terms of him contributing what he's learned and what he's believed and what he feels is the thesis for what happened, I just say to people, we have to keep thinking. There is never one answer. And I've learned this so much from the extraterrestrials, as I've always learned that there's always another piece of the puzzle. And that when you're given some information and you think you have all the answers and you think you know what's going on, you will soon find that you don't. That there's always another step. There's always another piece that paints a very different picture of what's going on. So we have to constantly work on our thinking processes. And not just our discernment, not just our cognition, not just our intuition, but a hybrid approach using all of those to figuring out what's our past, what's our present, and creating our future from that. A lot of what's going on now is people are really living in a fearful state because they're looking at the demise of their favorite store that's been around for 150 years, and they're looking at their 401ks just dissolving before their eyes. The bottom line is the way that we've been living, particularly in this Western society, is that we can't sustain it. It's a selfish way of living. And as we're realizing that, our priorities are changing. So what you're finding is that people are emphasizing and redefining quality of life. And as they're doing this, they're watching institutions fall. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, is this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because your baby teeth have to come out before the big ones can come in. And you don't want to build a new infrastructure. It really doesn't work if you build it on a crumbling foundation. You'll see a lot of that's what they're trying to do now, but you still have, the same hypocrisies going on. You still have the same financial investment strategies in Wall Street, and they're just waiting for things to rebound. It's not going to work. It'll be a temporary rebound, but it's not going to work. We have to totally revitalize and rethink our economic strategies and our financial investments on this planet. And we have to redefine wealth. Wealth isn't just about accruing money in the bank. Money is no more than a tool that we can use to accomplish things while we're here. And so it's not about having lots of bags and lots of toys and, the latest face cream that's supposed to make you look 30 years younger in 15 minutes. It's really about looking at what's really important and putting our energies into those areas and refocusing. We have to have room for the new technologies that are coming forward. We have to have room for the new entrepreneurs. Our life is going to change so much in the next 15 to 20 years, apart from any Mayan prophecies or Armageddon, doomsday scenarios. Our lives alone are going to change so much in the next 15 to 20 years. It's going to make what happened from 1980 forward to now in terms of computers, personal computing, cyberspace, the internet, look infantile. And what we're dealing with is a merger between higher consciousness and artificial technology redefining our lives. And it's already here. It's not off in the future. It's already here if you really take a look around and what's coming up on the horizon. The advent with artificial technology will come in most likely through two ways. It'll come in through the youth and wellness of the opportunities for human to enhance himself and herself in a way by bringing technological advantages to the body that we have. That's very alluring. People will not turn that down. I always tell my clients, look, there's 3 areas where there's always going to be a bounty that you can go into, and one of them is beauty and wellness. It's just been with us for thousands of years. So when humans have the chance now to go way beyond the titanium knee replacement and to things that will give us an advantageous opportunity from a cognitive standpoint, from a social standpoint, we're going to do it. I mean, really, did you ever even think that Botox, that we'd take the same poison that we get from a dented can of tomato soup that'll kill you and put it in our face because it'll make us pretty? I mean, you know, look at how we think and the things that we are willing to do. So that is going to be one of the ways that will be starting to introduce the revolution that's coming in terms of the artificial enhancement, artificial intelligence, along with the infantile robotics aspect that's coming up. This is really important, though, because it's going to get us to refocus on consciousness and life and what defines life and who we are. So those are some of the things that are coming down the road that are really going to change who we are and our lifestyles. So it's amusing to me when people get really involved on, you know, ancient philosophies and Mayan prophecies, is that they're getting stuck into a corner and they're not really looking at the whole picture because it's romantic. People have loved Nostradamus prophecies, but we really need to be in the here and now and look what's happening. You know, it's not necessarily a door closing on time. It's a new door opening. It's a new age. You know, look at us in the 1800s and look at us in the 1900s and the 20th century, 21st century. Would you really have thought what happened was what's coming for the next 100 years? You really didn't anticipate it. And so it is, but we're not even talking 100 years. We're talking 15, 20. So getting back to the original premise of institutions falling, economic reform, it's part of the paving a way for new processes coming in, new revolutionary lifestyles, new people who need to be at the forefront, entrepreneurs, successful people who are thinking in a different way with a new vision. And so, does it hurt? Yeah. But change always hurts. You know, this is our puberty. This is our economic puberty. We haven't gone through one in a long time. And if we do it right, it will have lasting repercussions, but in a good way. In a good way. Because there's a lot of good coming up. Through my personal work, I happen to know of a lot of these projects and a lot of things people are doing, and I find it very exciting. But you don't hear this, because we hear the CNN version of reality. We hear what people want us to hear. We hear about these things that are put to the prominent forefront of our attention. So you never hear about these great successes and terrific things that are going on in all corners of the globe in an unprecedented manner that are moving forward rapidly. Life is changing, but they don't want you to see it, and you're not looking hard enough for it. So that's why we now have to have new communication channels, new film focus, new media advent that is going to give us the opportunity to see the things we need to be seeing to grow. You know, it's like, you know, we are growing, but we need the right nutritional supplements. We have to demand those supplements, because when you're out there and you're making change and you feel like you're all alone, it's lonely. And little do you know that all around you are your colleagues, but you're never allowed to know that they're there. So we have to start doing that ourselves and creating these new forums, these new institutions, and bringing in some things that look pretty good to me for what's coming down the pike. So yeah, you know, we may be losing our institutional job in a corporation that's been around a long time, but who did that corporation really serve? You know, the fundamental underpinning of business, as they teach you in every business school, is to serve the shareholders, to make money, to make a profit. Well, I like to look at life a little differently than that. It's about quality of life. We need to redetermine profitability and what that really is. It's not just money sitting in the bank. It's about redefining our lives.